We're now joined by Iowa State head football coach Matt Campbell, Big 12 Media Days. And is there a time during the summer when it is all go, the green light? Dave Aranda mentioned the baseball all-star break when he was an assistant coach, but now as a head coach, it's 365 days a year.
Yeah. It certainly feels like 365 days a year as the head coach. You know, we really kind of say after the 4th of July, you know, it's kind of a, you know, you're kind of sprinting towards fall camp. And I think, you know, even as assistant coaches and when the recruiting model today, you know, you feel like, you know, there's so much to get done before August hits, because once it does, you know, there's no looking back at that point.
Buckle up.
How many questions do you say on average are about football, and how many are about the things outside of football these days?
Boy, you know, I think that's a little bit one thing I would say I feel very fortunate about being in Ames, Iowa. You know, we kind of can control what we can control and really don't have to worry about the chaos that's kind of outside of us, and that's a nice thing. You know, I think you can get consumed by the things that you can't control a lot. And certainly what's going on in the college landscape are things that I think are certainly out of football coaches' control. Our biggest control can be how do we do a great job continuing to build programs.
You have to be, as you get older through the coaching, you're more experienced at all that. But what right now is the biggest difference with you as a head coach over the years?
Yeah, I do think understanding managing your time. You know, how do you do a great job as – you know, I'm a father of 4 children. You know, I think that's, you know, what is important, where do you need to be, how do you manage your time, how do you continue to do your job in a very chaotic, stressful, and competitive environment, and yet still have the understanding and build in the time that your number one job is still to be a husband and a father at home. And I think we all probably live that in our own world of profession and business, but I think that's one thing that at least for me, I feel like I've grown, you know, immensely, and probably still have areas to grow as you continue to move and navigate through your job and trying to be successful both as a coach and certainly as a father and a husband.
I was asking Dave Aranda, he's somebody that absorbs a lot of football, obviously. He's always talking about the X's and O's and all that. And I was asking him just kind of what he absorbed during the offseason. He was mentioning, you know, this NFL defense or this type of front. Was there anything in particular for you this offseason that you kind of studied or focused in on?
Yeah, you know, I think the nice thing for us is you know, this is going on our 7th year at Iowa State. And I think we got to take a really holistic approach at, you know, we've kind of done that. You know, we've done that every year, and we still pull bits and pieces of NFL teams and obviously college teams, both really in all 3 phases of, man, what are the trends and what's going well. But this offseason, we kind of got a chance to a little bit of reflect on our own selves. You know, we do have a new quarterback coming in. You know, it's a time where, you know, let's sit back, let's understand what we've done well, areas we need to continue to do well from a schematic standpoint. But then also, man, we get this opportunity to almost be new, and how do you build it, you know, with this quarterback, and how do you build it with some of these new areas that are coming. And you know, some of that we'll know probably as we get through fall camp. You know, we're also not the staff or the coaches that say, man, we're going to have to make this fit. We want to do a great job of fitting whatever we do to the talent and the players around us. And so I think this was a great time for us to do a lot of self-reflection for ourselves.
If the program is stable, yes, the wins and loss record and all that, but isn't that also, no matter who leaves, it's next man up in the depth of what you have? Yes, you have to recruit. There's the transfer portal. But is that one of the signs of stability, that no matter who's gone, you keep on winning?
Yeah, I think that's we've lost that perspective a little bit in college football. We've lost, man, there's so much turnover that's happening. And you know, I think one of the things that I've always admired is people that can build programs and sustain success. And, you know, I think that's something that, you know, we've had to do. I feel like we've answered the question of losing good players in our own program 3 years ago. You know, you lost Joel Lanning, Alan Lazard, David Montgomery, some pillars of Iowa State football being good for the first time, and then you had the next phase of guys, and now you're into that next cycle. And so, you know, you love that challenge, but isn't that what our job is? And shouldn't we be building for the future as well as we're building for the present? And I think that is your responsibility as the head football coach, is one eye on what's going on in front of you, but also one eye on building it for the future as well.
You had a star-studded cast last year. You mentioned kind of that was another wave of teams that you've had. Xavier Hutchinson's receiving a lot of preseason praise. But who is somebody, I know you don't want to like single people out, but who are maybe one or two guys or however many you want to name that you feel maybe don't get spotlight but are deserving because of the work that they put in and what you've seen from them?
Yeah, I think we got a lot of those guys. I think that's the thing that's got you, at least from my end and our staff's end, very confident and excited about what's to come. You look on the offense, and you're right. It's great to have a guy like Xavier Hutchinson, a guy that led the Big 12 in receptions, certainly a really talented receiver. But, around him was a true freshman that really took the starting job a year ago, and Jalen Noel at the other receiver spot, who's a really talented player and we think's got a chance to maybe be one of the best receivers in our program history. You've got an offensive line that, had some injuries a year ago, now is back intact for the first time and kind of led by maybe the most talented lineman that we've had since we've been there, in Trevor Downing in our program. And then, you look at the running back room, when you have a guy like Breece Hall, it's hard to talk highly of anybody else because that guy's getting the ball all the time, as he should. But, you've got some really talented guys that are kind of waiting in the wings. And Jyrell Brock had some big games at the end of the season for us and kind of patiently has waited his turn, which is hard to find in college football today, especially at that position. And then you got some really talented young guys that's going to be a great race. And then you flip on the defensive side, you're like, man, you got a guy like Will McDonald who has got a chance to be a really special player, has been a really special player, probably could have left and been a high-round draft pick a year ago and decided to come back to school. And Orion Vance on the second level, who's been a 4-year starter at Mike linebacker and kind of been a kingpin to our success. And then, you look in the secondary and a guy like Anthony Johnson, again, a 4-year starter and a guy that's been an all-conference player. And so you got building blocks, and I think that's the thing that I love as a coach is, you're going to lose really good players every year. You hope you have great players and you hope you're developing and you're hoping they're ready to go on and do great things like our guys were able to do a year ago. Now, what's that next wave? And I think a little bit of that excites you as a coach because it's like, man, that's coaching, developing, building, and helping young guys reach their full potential.
It almost seems like when those coaching, the reasons you got into it, those kind of things, when those pop up, it's almost rare, it sounds like sometimes nowadays.
Boy, it certainly sounds like it, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
But you sense the excitement in your voice when that natural, genuine part of it comes out. Yeah.
Well, and man, you recruited these kids and you sold, man, I'm going to be a part of your life, and really isn't part of coaching and the journey. You hope it's not just a 4 to 5 year experience. If done correctly, it should be a lifetime. And, I think that's one of the things that we're getting those experiences now. We're finally in the stage of our program where you got, Alan Lazard's back training in your program all off season. Breece Hall's back training in your program all off season. Now you got a real program. Guys like that want to make Ames, Iowa, which maybe isn't a destination place for everybody, but at least in the off season, man, that's where they want to come back and be, and they feel at home there. I think as a coach, that makes you proud. We've got 4 former players that are now on our staff, either part-time or full-time on our staff. And, it's becoming what you envision, trying to build a program the right way.
We hear a lot about different conferences are stronger than other conferences or the blue bloods or whatever, but can you still try to explain every year in the Big 12, everybody plays everybody, and there is no you skip a team or two. How difficult is that?
Boy, I think that's the thing that makes this conference and has at least made this conference since I've been in it really, really special. I think top to bottom, you would say this conference is as strong as you're going to find. You better play your A game, especially, for 90% of the schools in this conference. It's hard to play a B game and win football games in this conference. And so I think that's hard. I think it's really challenging. I think it certainly makes it a really entertaining and fun conference to watch because any given Saturday anybody can really beat anybody, and yet at the end of the day it forces you as the coach to really try to prepare your team to be its best every Saturday. And it's easy to say it, but I think we know it with 18 to 22-year-olds that's not always the case. So I think that's where you powerful why, player-driven leadership, all those things continue to be really important, and certainly in the Big 12 it's really important.
We got a chance to talk to Brett Yormark. Everybody heard his press conference, and I think people are excited. There's an excitement of just something new, with all due respect to Bob Bowlesby. I know he talked to the coaches when he took the job. What were your impressions of getting to know Brett Yormark?
Yeah, obviously I think time will tell,
right.
But boy, I think you lose what, I think now you certainly see what Bob did in terms of even just getting those 4 teams a year ago to come in. Maybe is as brilliant a move for the future of the Big 12 today as any move that maybe he made, and certainly the powers to be. And you're excited about a guy like Brett, who's also got not just an educational background, but he's got a background in business and a background in marketing. And you look at the world we're in right now, and man, a lot of these decisions are being made based on business and marketing and in areas where, are certainly strengths of his. So, I think that part's exciting. And for a little while, with him and Bob working together for a little bit, you feel like you got the best of both worlds that give you the best opportunity to move forward in a landscape that's certainly unsettling at times.
Is there any kind of concern when you heard him or who he was, Brooklyn and, Jay-Z and all that? We brought this up. Can he relate to Ames or Manhattan, Kansas, or Waco, Texas, or Lubbock, Texas? Is that not even on the table?
Yeah. Again, David, that's a great question. I don't even know if I probably have thought enough about it to give you an educated answer on it, other than, I think some of the strengths that are coming out of the hire, and certainly what you've seen in his background, is he's a builder. And when you build, there are certain traits that it takes to have success building anything that I think are applicable to the process, and part of that's alignment, and aligning these schools, these presidents, obviously the egos that come in with all of it. That's going to be part of the job, and obviously he's been successful doing that. And if that's something he can do, I think in this landscape it'll allow all of us to have great success.
What is your favorite thing to do outside of football?
Yeah, honestly, we've got 4 kids at home. Our oldest is a 14-year-old daughter that's going to be a freshman, the way down to a 6th grade or a 6-year-old son who's going to be in 1st grade. So along the way, there's 2 boys, 2 girls. So being a dad is really important to me, and as much as I love being at the office, still being home and being a part of their lives is really what I love to do the most.
Does the young one know whether daddy's won or not, a game, and does that change you when you get home?
Well, the young one's the most competitive, so he's going to probably tell me what I've done wrong most of the time. So, a couple of them don't really care. They just like going to eat the candy and have fun at the football office. But, you know what, at the end of the day, I think COVID taught us a lot of this. I said even in my own world, I'm only 42, and in my profession, when do you ever get the opportunity that the world slows down for a little bit and you got to catch your breath? Usually it's when you get fired, right? And, fortunate that didn't happen. But for me to be at home and to really see, like, man, this is what's going on with these young kids. And it's like, man, my number one responsibility is, yes, I got to coach all these other kids, but my number one responsibility is I better not screw up what's at home. And, I think it taught us some great lessons along the way, at least me as a football coach, that you're grateful for the time and you understand, man, you got to continue to make great time with your family and your kids.
One more thing. You have, of course, name has been attached. Coach Aranda last year. My God, every time an opening came up, and you've been through this, are you and him kind of a rare breed? And by the way, thank you. Doesn't mean we don't know, but it's because we see everybody chasing the money and chasing this, even what realignment's about.
Right. Yeah, I don't know rare breed. I just know, and I don't know Coach Aranda a ton other than the respect that I have for the job he's already done at Baylor. But I know from my own personal standpoint, it's, man, again, it's what do you stand for? At some point, you got to look yourself in the mirror and say, what's really important about what you're trying to do? Does it define a great coach of going to school A, B, or C, or does it define you as a great coach and being there for the kids, doing it the right way, trying to build a program that stands for what's right? At the time will tell, but you got to look yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and see what you get into this profession for. And for me, it was because I had great coaches that made a huge impact on my life. And, man, I'd love to be able to give that back to young people and give them something to be really proud of.
I do think it's interesting that in today's world, someone who's just happy where they are or pleased with what they're doing and the goal they have is the surprise or the shock. It's the person who goes and chases it that we kind of obsess over. I don't know if that's explaining it quite right, but you're just doing things how you want to do it, and it's almost viewed as like, well, why would he not do this or do that? It's just
refreshing.
It's backwards. It feels backwards.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. Like I said, it's kind of nice to be in Ames. We can kind of go coach football and care about kids and try to do it the right way.
Nick Joseph is a good friend of ours from his time, in fact, at Baylor. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me on,
Matt
guys.
Campbell,
Really
Iowa State football.